this lesson, we're going to talk more specifically about the sport product, that complex package of tangible and intangible elements. So our main objectives are to review those elements of the sport product that contribute to its uniqueness in the wider marketplace of goods and services, and then to understand and identify elements in the core sport product and its extensions. So let's learn a little bit more about the sport product itself. And we'll start by focusing again on some of the things that make a sporting event unique from other products and services. So what is the sport product? It's any bundle or combination of qualities, processes, and capabilities that a buyer expects will satisfy their wants and needs. So that sounds pretty generic, but think about it in terms of any sport that you pay attention to. There's tangible aspects of that sport, like the football that they use during a game and the jerseys that they wear, and maybe if you're at a game live, there's the seats and the comfort level of the seats. And then there's those intangible elements. So these are things like the experience of attending a game or watching it on TV, the smells around you, the sounds of the crowd, and even the outcome of that game or tournament, which largely depends on human performance. So we started a discussion on what makes sports unique earlier. So let's focus a little more on the sport product and the facets that make it unique. One main thing is it's inconsistent. Sporting events are never scripted like a play, and the outcome of every experience is different from every other one. This means that even if you're a season ticket holder to baseball and you attend 80 plus games in a season, every time you go, it's going to be a little bit different. Different smells, sounds, tastes, touches, different feelings, different sights, different people around you. And that is one thing that makes it really different from traditional products, or even services that try their best to make your experience consistent over and over, like when you go to a restaurant. But this is really what makes sports really interesting and exciting for fans and also for players, is that we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what every experience is going to be like. And that unknown is one thing that makes sports fun and interesting. So along with this, we have to keep in mind that from a business perspective and a marketing perspective, the sports marketer cannot control most of what we call the core product. But really our job as marketers is to focus on the extensions. So the core product is only one element of what we say is a larger ensemble of experiences. This includes the atmosphere at the sporting event, the venue, could be music, other fans, any pre or post game activities that may also be key components of the sport product experience. So now is a good time to talk about the core, which is the game presentation. So the core product or game presentation, for many sport organizations, the primary product is the game, the tournament, or the event. And marketers for these organizations attempt to create an experience around this core product that's enjoyable for consumers and fans, but it really has to be independent of any kind of team success. Because as we know, we can't control the outcome on the field or on the court. So now let's take a look at what we really mean by the core product, which is game presentation. Game presentation is the combining of all elements on a game day or night. And it's really an art and science. So it's how do you create something that's unique, interesting, and exciting? And many of the elements that go into game presentation are seen on this figure here. Now, when we talk about the main elements of game presentation, these are here at the center. It's the apparel and equipment, the rules of the game or the techniques of play. It might be the physical venue, star power, and things like that. On the outskirt here of the circle are what we call the product extensions. And this is mostly what the sports marketer is going to be able to control and strategize for. And these are things like electronic products that are associated with the core product. They might be the tickets, the programs, or other unique printed materials. They're going to be those memories or artifacts that maybe people can bring home with them after an experience of the core product. And other types of hybrid products, novelties, fantasies that go along with it. And this is some of that experiential stuff. And it's important to point out also that there's a lot of research that goes on involving game presentation. And it really highlights how important it is for the marketer to focus on the presentation aspects. Here's a quote that came from the Celtics, their director of game presentation. He says, "Trying to keep track of everything everything going on is like air traffic control." But the payoff is huge. And so what they're saying was they're creating so many different things that go along with the game that they don't necessarily know what's contributing most to fan happiness and satisfaction and experience, but it's really the bundle of those things. Um, and there's so much going on at once, which if you've ever gone to a basketball game, a pro basketball game or a football game or hockey game, you know that there's a lot of sights and sounds, and somebody has to plan all those things. But importantly, there's some surveys that showed that 92% of all attendees were satisfied or extremely satisfied with the game presentation. And of those, 70% said they would likely return because of the game presentation. So this is just used to highlight how important it is for the whole package, not just the play on the court or the field. So let's take a look at some of those individual elements of the core product. The game presentation, we talk about game form, which is the rules or techniques that are part of the game of play. The players and coaches are part of the core product. Again, not something the marketer can control, although we wish we could. Then there's fan behavior. We also can't control what fans are doing in the stands, although at times we may need to try and regulate it. There's equipment and apparel that go along with that, which oftentimes connects directly to branding and identity. And then there's the venue. So just to highlight how important the game presentation is in attracting fans, this came from the 1980s, but when the New York Cosmos brought the Great Pele to New York, they found that attendance increased from 5,000 per match to 50,000. And this was really a result of game presentation and having a star player on the field. Some of you can probably recognize star players from your favorite sports and how easily they are able to attract fans to a game, just people who want to see them play. Let's talk about game form, which is the rules or techniques. Each sport has uniqueness in the game form, different ways of playing and techniques. That's why we tend to be interested or gravitate more towards one sport or another. And these are the things that help attract different fans. So think about this for a second. What are the differences in gameplay between basketball, tennis, and golf? Or throw your favorite sport in there. What is it about each of these sports that's probably attractive to its fan base? Just these three here, basketball, tennis, and golf, one of them is definitely more exciting and outrageous and thrilling. One of them is more kind of quiet and subdued, but skill is very important. So depending on the type of fan, there's attractive elements to these games. And that's not to say you can't like all of these. That's likely and probable. But there are different benefits for different types of play. The next element are those players and coaches. And this is where you may have had discussions in a previous sports business class, maybe, or maybe just you can think about it in terms of your reading in sports. But there's usually a hero and a villain, right? And these are really key to promotions because they help build the drama outwards and attract people to the next upcoming game or tournament. It's part of creating a story or a dialogue and then maybe the resolution. So the players and coaches are part of that core product. As marketers, no, we can't hire those players and coaches, but we can create product extensions and promotions around them that help take advantage of some of our star players and their personalities, or coaches and their personalities, and you pit them against some of the rival players and teams, and those key parts of the core product can lead into good promotional and other marketing activities. So what players or coaches do you think are drama builders, and how does this affect the product and the consumers of that sport product? Think about some of your favorite teams or players. More than likely, they're used in a marketing sense to help build the drama outwards. The next aspect of the core product is fan behavior. And this is how we describe moving that core product into what we call a spectacle. It's expanding the drama into people's everyday life or to another venue. And it's really essential for every event. One of the questions to ask, though, is it a good or a bad thing? I think we can all think of times when we've had a great experience attending a sporting event or watching it on TV and the fans seem all happy and getting along. But there's also times that you can probably remember, or if not, you can Google it. There's plenty of them, where fans act unruly. They maybe even commit some crimes. They're, fighting with each other, literally fist fighting with each other. Um, and so that adds to the drama, and it's not something the marketer can control. So sports marketers have to be really careful about how we promote fan behavior as part of that experience. We want to contribute to a positive experience, not create fear or aversion for fans because of other fan behavior. They can certainly poison the atmosphere and incite violence, and that's not a good thing. So right now, many sport organizations are trying to regulate this rowdy fan behavior. And sometimes it's also believed to be due to excessive alcohol consumption. So, the extent to which they're doing this varies from sport to sport and may also depend on the venue, the state, the city, and other local laws and regulations. So the next part of the core product is in-game presentation is apparel. This is how we extend sports into everyday life. More than likely, you have more than one t-shirt, hat, jacket, or other little tchotchkes that have your favorite sport team name on it. This is how we get visible integration of our favorite sports into our society and culture, and it helps with identification with our favorite sport teams and players. So apparel and equipment can go well beyond the core product, and they become key identifiers and extensions for sport brands. And the last part to talk about is the venue. Some venues are very closely aligned to the teams and franchises. This picture here comes from Michigan, from the Big House. It's a really big part of their identity as a football team. The memories and communities are created within these venues. So again, if you attend a game at a place that's really memorable in your childhood, you're probably going to create some kind of lasting nostalgic imagery aligned with that team. And that becomes a really important part of the core product. This is a picture of myself over here and Dr. Joe Cobbs when we attended a game at Wrigley Field. So just getting a chance to tour the field and see all the cool things like a bourbon bar that they have inside of it kind of helps highlight what makes Wrigley Field so special besides its historical component. And that concludes our lecture on core product.